Hello everyone, Jeff the Green Review here. I have two garage sale aquariums here. The small one was about $3 and the big one was a little more because it included some filters and lights, but it also has a cracked side glass. Let's turn them into beautiful terrariums. The small one here will be a dry terrarium for sedums, aloe, cacti, and other plants that like dry sandy soil and low humidity. And the tall one will be for tropical plants that live on the floor of the jungle and for epiphytes that live on other plants. Either way, they're plants that like wetter conditions and high humidity. Today's video is the first of 4 parts covering turning aquariums into terrariums. This video covers general rules and tips useful for any type of terrarium. Next week we will build a dry desert type of terrarium with cacti and other succulent plants. 2 weeks from now we will build a tropical plant terrarium, and 3 weeks from now we'll build an epiphyte terrarium that has a waterfall. Let's get started with different types of terrariums. The simplest use of an old aquarium is a houseplant container. It can be a leaky aquarium because all you're doing is housing the plants in the aquarium for some extra humidity and maybe a grow light. They stay in their own pots, which you can hide with some driftwood and some moss. This is an easy way to grow some small herb plants in their own pots. The next easiest is the dry aquarium with cacti or succulents. Again, the aquarium doesn't have to hold water. It doesn't need a lid that might hold in humidity, but a strong light might be useful if it isn't going to be in a sunny location. A tropical plant aquarium, a terrarium, might need to hold water up to a few inches deep, only if you're going to have aquatic or shoreline plants, or if you're going to use a small pond or for a waterfall. If not, then you can use a leaky aquarium. A good lid with a bright light will help hold humidity and provide light, but some plants may not need such a bright light. A vivarium takes a step up in complications. It may or may not need to hold water for small animals, but obviously it will need to hold water if you're going to have fish. How you keep animals healthy depends on the type of animals and may require a heating element and filters. You can house fish, frogs, reptiles, insects, or spiders. And last is a paludarium. The bottom half is an aquarium that holds water, and the top half is a terrarium. It may also be a vivarium that holds animals or fish, so it can be very complicated. Any aquarium will work, but some are shaped tall and some are shaped wide. There are even some that are hexagons. A wide terrarium looks nicer because you'll see more plants, and it's easier to add and move plants and other materials. They can be glass or plastic, and it doesn't matter which one you use. If there is a broken glass, it can be repaired with glass, plexiglass, or a mirror. But if the terrarium doesn't need to hold water, the broken side can be replaced with wood, plastic, or screens. These materials are easy to cut, and holes can be used to run wires for lights, pumps, or foggers. The holes hide the cords or plastic tubing used to make waterfalls. Lids can be the ones that come with aquariums, or they can be made with wood, plastic, or screens, and with or without lights. One of the first decisions is to decide how many sides of the terrarium you will see. If you will not see through the back, then that side can be wood that is painted. The glass can be painted inside or out, or a backdrop of material can be inside the aquarium. Backgrounds can be bought, as there are many available for aquariums or reptile habitats. You can also use a mirror for a background. To set up the aquarium terrarium, we need to first clean and disinfect the aquarium. So using soap, bleach, rubbing alcohol, whatever you want to use there, and then rinsing it well. The best easy plants to grow are slow-growing tropical plants from the forest floor that need less light, high humidity, loose soil for not too aggressive roots. The best plant families for a wet terrarium are bromeliads, ferns, mosses, orchids, tillandsias, and for dry terrariums, aloe, cacti, lithops, and succulents. Leaving plants in their pots can slow the spread of some plants, which might be useful. Cover open soil with moss or mulch because in nature, soil, water, and sunlight will grow weeds. In a terrarium, you might not get weeds, but it does look prettier if you have more plants, and moss makes it look really nice. The potting soil that you use will be the type that your plants need. If you're making an orchid terrarium, then an orchid potting mix is used. Tropical houseplants, then a bagged mix is used. If you're using cacti or succulents, then a sandy soil is best, and so on. Drainage can be important in any planting style of terrarium. Water that escapes a plant pot will accumulate in the bottom of the aquarium. If this is a leaking aquarium, this can be a problem. It can be a problem if it drowns plant roots. It can also be a problem if it allows mosquitoes a place to lay eggs. It can be useful to have a way to suck up water out of the bottom if that's going to be a problem. But usually it's not. We do not use a gravel layer at the bottom of flower pots because water will accumulate above the gravel in the soil, making the soil layer too wet. There should be drain holes in flower pots so excess water can drain out. It is best to have a taller layer of good soil that allows water to evaporate out of it into the air above. No matter what kind of soil or plant type you have, it's better to have a thicker layer of soil than it is to have a thinner layer of soil and a gravel layer underneath. I tend to overwater small cookie jar types of terrariums, so I do sometimes add a drainage layer to the bottom so I can monitor the excess water in the bottom and can use a turkey baster to suck some of the water out if necessary. If left on its own, the excess water can evaporate out of the gravel drainage layer and accumulate in the soil layer to the point where the roots could rot. So this is why we don't use gravel drainage in most terrariums. Don't mix plants from different climatic zones into the same terrarium. Watering in soil can be kind of done on a plant-by-plant basis, especially if they're left in their own pots. But the humidity level can't be individualized. Plants that need a low humidity can rot in high humidity, and plants that need a high humidity will dry up if the terrarium is kept at a low humidity. Adjust the humidity by opening the lid when the water condenses on the glass too much. If the aquarium is closed on top, it will be a miniature greenhouse. If placed where it can be in the sunlight for even a short time, it can heat up so hot that the plants will bake. Open-topped aquarium terrariums can grow near a window. If you have cacti or succulents that are not getting enough light, they'll grow too tall and search for light, and that'll be an indication that you need to give them more light. A terrarium is a miniature landscape. It can be in many styles, such as bonsai, natural, formal, dry garden, or wet garden. Decide on the best viewing angle and how many sides you can see through. Will it be maintained as an ecosystem or just a large flower pot holder? Will it showcase plants or animals? We often fall into the model house syndrome of using baby plants of large growing types of plants. They will overrun the terrarium in no time. Use plants that will stay in bounds and you'll have a pretty terrarium for much longer than if you use large growing plants. Let the young plants of small growers thrive and you'll have a terrarium that lasts a long time with very low maintenance. You can use decorations of crystals, driftwood, marbles, pebbles, shells, tiny statues, or whatever you like to create a beautiful landscape. Plan on at least one elevation change to make it interesting. Use large and small objects to create scale. Test variations of each item. Put the hardscape items in first and plant around them. Test build the terrarium by measuring an area and playing with the materials over and over again until you like the layout. A terrarium is an artwork, so follow the rules of art, such as a variety of textures, colors, focal points, visual movement, and balance. Plants in limited amounts of soil may need to be fertilized regularly, but don't overdo it. A little bit at a time is better than starving the plants and then over-fertilizing. Fertilize the plants based on the type of plant and the growth cycle stage it is in. Don't over-fertilize. Thank you for watching to the end of this video on making a terrarium out of an aquarium. Next week we're going to be building the dry desert type of terrarium that was hinted at in some of the video clips this week. And then we're going to be using orchids and tropical plants in another aquarium terrarium. And then we're going to be using waterfalls and fog and epiphytes in another one. So you're really going to want to watch the next few weeks of videos. So hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below and the share button and share this with all your friends who like those kinds of houseplants. And then you'll be able to watch all of these in the next few weeks. And this is Jeff with a Green Review. Thanks for watching.